Bonjour French 1, this is your section 4.2 video notes all about colors and how to use them to describe objects. Please know that colors can be made masculine or feminine or even plural based on what they're describing. So these are not tabbed over to the left or right to indicate masculine or femininity. Then these can be changed to make them agree with whatever they're describing, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. Don't forget that what's in parentheses is not required. It's simply a guide for pronunciation. If you'd like to write it down, you can, but you do not have to. The only thing that's required as far as getting what you need for your notes to use in class and on video notes, tests, and things like that are the things that are actually on the line. Don't forget that when I pause to repeat after me so you get that pronunciation practice as well. The word for the color pink in French is rose. The word for the color red is rouge. The word for orange is orange. The word for yellow is jaune. The word for green is vert. The word for blue is bleu. The word for purple is either violet or violette. And the reason why there's both a masculine and a feminine on the purple one and not anything else is because it does not follow your typical rules for changing colors to masculine or feminine, and I'll talk about those in just a second. The word for gray is gris. The word for black is noir. The word for white is either blanc or blanche. Again, that feminine form is highly irregular, so I had to put that on the actual list. Finally, if you wanted to say a dark version of a color, like for example dark blue, you say whatever that color is followed by the verb foncé. So dark blue would be bleu foncé. And if, for example, you wanted a lighter version of that color, like for example light blue, you use the color blue before the word clair. So light blue would be bleu clair. So I touched on it just a moment ago, but it's important to remember that colors are actually describing words. So just like when we learn to make the word tall, masculine, feminine, plural, and all of that, same thing applies for the color pink or yellow or anything else. Don't forget that they always come after whatever they describe. So whereas in the English language we say things like blue car, in French they'd put the word car before the word blue. Also, don't forget that they are expected to agree in gender and number with whatever they are describing. So if you're describing something that's masculine in blue, it's going to look different than something that's feminine in blue, and if there's more than one, it changes as well. Don't forget that when you first see a word, it's in its original masculine form. So whenever we first took notes on the left-hand side of your page, the color bleu in its original form looks like this. That's the masculine form. So if you were to describe a blue notebook, because notebook is masculine, you would use that form of bleu to say un cahier bleu. If, however, you want to describe something that was feminine, such as a pencil bag that was feminine, pencil bag happens to be feminine, and you have to make blue feminine, meaning you have to add the letter E to it. So you have une trousse bleue. Anytime you need to make something masculine and plural, remember it's already naturally masculine. So bleu right here, just as it's spelled, is already naturally masculine. If, however, you also wanted to make it plural, that would require you to add an S to that masculine form. So if you had, instead of just a blue notebook, but multiple blue notebooks, some blue notebooks, not only would you be adding an S to notebooks, but you would add an S to blue to make sure that it agrees with the plural notebook. Des cahiers bleus is how you would say some blue notebooks. And finally, if you had something that was both feminine and plural, like multiple pencil bags that were blue, you have to add an E and an S to your describing word. Des trousses bleues with an E and an S at the end is how you would make that feminine and plural to match the fact that pencil bags are feminine and plural. Finally, for a couple of examples, if you wanted to say, I have a green book, you would take that original form of green and you wouldn't do a darn thing to it because book is masculine. If you wanted to say that he has a blue car, you would have to take that original masculine form of blue, which looks like this. And because car is feminine, you can tell here from the une that it's feminine, you have to make blue feminine by adding an E. Now, the only tricky thing that I wanted to remind you of is on this one. Let's take the word red and let's make it feminine. We know I have to make it feminine because we're describing a car, and une voiture tells us that that car is feminine. Normally that would mean adding an E, but don't forget about the rule. If the E is already there, you don't double it. It just stays the same as the masculine form. We learned that way back when, but I wanted to remind you about that.